Getting it on. All right, man. This is so nice. I am so glad to have the one and only Darryl Foots Woolfolk. They still calling you Foots out there, aren't they?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
It depends on what era, you know.
Yeah, I guess all the newbies and stuff they don't know about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The flavor of jazz cuisine. We're gonna do this. This is a pleasure for me because I've been trying to get this brother on a one-on-one here with me so we can talk about his career, talk about things that's going on. And you definitely been a lot of places that I'm wishing I can get to at least one all across the country and overseas.
Yes, sir.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit and everything. So I'm glad to see you. I'm glad you're all right.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you too. You know.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah,
back in hometown, back in Denver, Colorado,
yeah, for a few days at least.
a few days.
Mhm.
Yeah. So this is home base now.
Yeah.
This is home base. This is good. Do you
Since
like, and I know
since
you travel so much, but do you like the home base and not be somewhere else to try to be located or whatever?
what's so cool about living here is that you're kind of in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
So flights aren't as long as when I lived in Los Angeles or Las Vegas. So
Right.
that's the cool thing about here. Yeah.
That's tight.
Hmm.
Yeah. It could get monotonous, depending upon where you got to go,
Yeah.
especially
There,
when you're in the country here. You know.
yeah. But the only other thing is like Denver Airport is probably the fifth busiest airport in the United States.
Yeah.
So that always presents a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And of
Hmm.
course, the season wise, it's now the doggone winter months and everything, and now we got to deal with the weather all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I want to get into really talking about your your story, your travels, and as they call your journey through life here and doing what you do. I I call this first part the little one, and from the little one, that means when you really first knew that you were going to actually be a drummer and started drumming. When was that? When was that for you?
Ooh, I was 9 years old here in Denver at Washington Park Elementary School. And
Uh,
um, I remember hearing over the PA that they were giving drum lessons. So I
uh,
ran home and asked my dad and my mom if I could take drum lessons. And they were always supportive and they said yes. So I ended up getting one of those practice pads. You remember those small practice pads,
yeah,
square? They had
yeah,
an angle to it because they wanted you to practice traditional grip.
yeah.
Yeah. And so got one of those old wooden practice pads and started practicing, taking the lessons at Washington Park Elementary School.
And I still have one of those pads.
That right?
Yeah,
I
when
don't
it
know what
came
you
out
have.
there, you got rid of yours.
Yeah, probably. It probably got lost somewhere.
A
A
lot of moving around for you, I know.
lot of moving around. Yeah.
Man, that's interesting, and for your parents to be so supportive too, that's always a good thing.
Well,
You know?
Big Brother
Yeah,
was already in music, and
right,
even prior to that, actually, my first instrument I tried to play was saxophone.
right.
And
I remember you saying that one time. Yeah.
yeah, I tried to do that. I was playing saxophone, and my sister Dana, she was playing clarinet. You know, and it was honkety squeak. You know.
And by you saying that, is your family, is all of your family musically inclined, even your mom and dad, or is just the children?
Not at all. My mom and dad used to, it was funny. They used to go, well, I sang in the choir. My father go, I used to play harmonica, you know. But
Yeah.
father was a career army guy,
Right, right.
service guy, and mom was a housewife. And so Andrew started playing saxophone as long as I can remember,
Yeah,
because he was 8 years older than me.
right, right. Did that inspire you too, because your brother was playing?
Oh yeah, yeah, because he would play in bands and stuff, and they would practice in the basement, in Denver, and I was always around, and
Right.
it was just always an inspiration. Yeah, definitely.
Solid. That's cool. I mean, those were the days, man. Do we even get that to our younger generation and through our children's head, having them start with an instrument, play something.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing more and more of that. You look on social media and there's younger kids that, they're just letting them go. They're not confining them to um uh what I want to say, traditional technique.
Right,
They're just letting them play.
right.
And so I was looking at Instagram today. And there's this little Asian girl who was playing her behind off, and she's probably 12 years old or something.
Yeah,
And so, the times have changed as far as that is concerned, and where you're picking up music, times have changed a lot. So,
right,
mhm.
right. Then and I do see that, and like you said, on the social media and stuff. Some of these young ones, they killing it, man. They're killing it. It's like we were in the same kind of thought process because we started so early. But man, to be as technical as they are, with knowing that they have that spirit to do what they want to do and play something and everything, it's just incredible. They're coming out the gate just like they've always been playing.
Yeah, I think in our generation, people were hooked on traditional teaching, and I remember wanting more as a kid, and traditional teaching said, "No, you got to get this first." You
Yeah,
know, when you're a child, you can do everything. You're absorbing things as a sponge.
yes,
And so you could do everything. And like for us, and especially we didn't have social media, we had records and
right,
cassettes and,
yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. And so we had to put our ears to stuff to learn stuff if somebody wasn't there uh, in front of you teaching you.
right,
And I probably learned more putting my ears to stuff so than anybody taught me, which is,
yeah,
but nowadays they let the kids go. They're in churches or they're in schools or whatever they're doing, and they're just going. you
yeah.
know and that's the difference, because
Mhm.
I believe that if we weren't taught traditionally, we would have had the same facilities.
Right,
Hmm.
yeah. And on that same line, what is your regiment for practicing your training and stuff, as you say, coming up, just going ahead and listening to records and doing things like that, and a little bit of training, through the school. So as you are now, what do you do to stay in shape, to keep your chops up per se?
Hmm. Well, I think I've been lazy. In my older age, I've been lazy,
Mhm.
but I do a regimen of rudiments, carry practice pad with me on the road, and do a regimen of rudiments to warm up my hands, exercises, walking or getting on a treadmill, that's something that keeps your body warm, because we do play the most physical instrument on the stage.
Right.
It's actually pretty athletic.
Right.
And so, I try to do things like that, or I sit on drums, and I practice at least a couple hours nowadays. But back in the day, I had a 4-hour regiment,
Yeah.
and it was, for me, if I didn't sweat, I didn't practice. So it was definitely kind of training for me, because I always saw myself on that big stage.
Right.
And with drums and playing big stage, you have to have that endurance.
Yes.
And you're using all your limbs. And
Yes.
so with the people that I had around me growing up, I knew that, I had to make sure that I was ready to go on the big stage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's important to get in that zone, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and not only the mindset, but like you said, physically, so you can be ready to jump on it and things like that. And of course, when you're playing, I know for me, hitting heavy and hard and long, and then you can't wait for that slow song, you know.
Well, in some instances that I've been in, slow songs were just as heavy and hard as the fast songs. So, it's just like you just have to be in shape.
Yeah, yeah, you got to be ready for
Mm.
all sides of, you know.
Right,
Uh,
right.
that's true. That's true. Who um who was your mentor growing up?
Ooh, I had several, and um, um, when I was in Denver as a kid, you know, mentors surprisingly were people like um, Al McKay.
Yeah.
Um, he would show me stuff. They would come over my mom's house, and I had
Mhm.
drums in the basement, and he's a former drummer, so he
Uh,
would show me stuff. Um, uh, who else would do that? Uh, and let's go back. My brother had after I got my practice pad, my brother traded a saxophone for my first drum set to Philip Bailey.
wow.
And Philip taught me my first beat as far as coordination on drums.
Right.
And yeah, and so after the band, they got in the band and stuff, it was like Al McKay would teach me stuff. Um and I just kind of looked up to the drummers in Earth, Wind and Fire, even though I didn't sit with them a lot.
Mhm.
Now, I would talk to Ralph Johnson, and Ralph Johnson would show me things. Ralph even had a book out, that he blessed me with. But,
Yeah.
just to I never really was able to sit one-on-one with those guys, which was fun,
Mhm.
but definitely a lot of listening. Definitely, I could talk to him on the phone. And
Right.
then as I moved to Los Angeles, it was people like Jonathan Moffett, uh,
Yeah.
James Gatson,
Yeah.
uh, Paul Hines. I don't know if you know who Paul Hines is, but he's a drummer on Square Biz.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, he was one of my mentors. Oh, there's and then I had mentors of bass players, you
All
know,
right. Yeah.
uh, showing me how to play with bands and showing me how to groove with bass players, and that was guys like Alan McGreer, who was also he played with Rick James and
Okay.
wrote songs with Tina Marie, Nate Watts, you
Yeah.
know, Stevie's bass player. He showed me stuff. Um, Byron Miller was a big influence on me.
Yeah.
You Um, so, it was growing up, and I feel musically growing up in LA at the time that I did, I had a lot of guys who took to me, you know, and not because I was my brother's brother, but I was out there hustling, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was hustling in LA, trying to do what I do today.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And what the funny thing is, like, I'd run into these guys on club gigs,
Hmm.
or just, little side projects and stuff like
Right.
that,
Right.
and they liked the way I played, and so they would, take me under their arms and
Yeah.
show me stuff.
That's a real good thing too, because um, getting out there and being exposed to that circuit and everything, that's a lot too. Like you said, sometimes you may not be with them one on one, but when you did have the chance, that's priceless.
Oh
That-
yeah,
That's priceless.
yeah, it's priceless.
That's real good. And since you talked about the hustle, did the hustle get you to a point to where you felt like this is too much, or you wanted to hit it more? You know, was there any disappointments in knowing that, man, this is really, really tough. This is really tough. But you kept going. I know you kept going, but was there any disappointment in thinking that, man, I don't know if I want to still do this or
that's,
not?
that's happening now. uh, uh, no, I was really focused,
Yeah,
and especially after I got in LA and I was around the people I was around, it's like, I want to do this.
yeah,
And to the point where, you know, sleep in your car, you know, I
yeah,
had I had moments where my meals were just 7 Up and a Hostess cherry pie or a Hostess apple pie,
yeah,
you know. And,
yeah,
and I just, what was so crazy was I had blessings growing up where people would see my hustle and see my determination,
right,
and they would just feed me, or I'd go into a spot that I would frequent and I'd pay for one thing and I had more in my bag, you know,
nice, yeah,
and so they knew that I was trying to be what I wanted to be,
right, right,
you know. And so I did everything I could, and I had guys around me that always inspired me, you know.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it takes, the sacrifice to really know that. And I guess, in some points in anybody's, the destiny of getting to where you want to be and everything, you just don't think about, like you said, hardly eating, healthy, hardly
Mhm.
having anything to where, the comforts of home kind of thing,
Oh yeah.
and you get through it, and it's well worth it, because all of a sudden, boom, you get a fantastic gig, and things start to look up, and it just gets better, because you stick through it. You stick through it, and anything that's worth anything, you got to stick it out.
Yeah. I used to take my drums in LA because I lived in an apartment, and I would take my drums out to the high school parking lot and set them up and practice there,
What?
and then tear them down and then
Uh,
go back home. I mean, I would do stuff like that, which, was just
that's
crazy.
yeah,
I was reminded of that the other day, and I was like, yeah, I used to go to Dorsey. Yeah, it was Dorsey High School parking lot. And, set up my drum, set up my full kit,
yeah,
get my practice on.
man. Now that's dedication. That's determination, dedication. That's tight. Now, did you have a crowd when people, was listening to you? Right.
No, because I would try to do it at a time of day where everybody was working or people were in school. So,
Mhm.
and it's kind of a habit of mine now, like between 12 and 4, you know,
Yeah.
people aren't, they have to be places and do things.
Right.
And so for me to concentrate on what I wanted to do, you don't want to have crowds because people go, can you play this beat or play that? And so And it's like, you're not there to entertain, you're there to
Right. Yeah.
practice.
To practice, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Get it in.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody never ran you out of the parking lot, did they?
No, no,
Yeah.
it was an interesting time, but I
That's
appreciate
unique.
every moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's unique. That's very unique. I I had a question too. Who is, I guess, let me how did I put it? Who have you worked with that's been a favorite to work with?
Trying to get me in trouble.
Well, everybody has that favorite, you know. Don't tell
Yeah,
nobody, but you know.
I really don't have a favorite,
Yeah,
because each one of them were different experiences. But
right, right.
okay, so I would say, and there's several. Um, I would say Johnny Gill,
Hmm.
because that was a situation that taught me that what even I was doing on my own wasn't enough.
Uh,
So Johnny Gill was the first time I got the gig, and we rehearsed from 12 in the afternoon to 12 a.m. And then when it came down, we were getting close to showtime.
mhm,
We still had those hours, but we would do an hour and a half show, a half hour break from 12 to 12.
mm,
And that was one of my favorite situations, because it got me really in shape for what was coming ahead.
mm,
So um, Johnny Gill, Jeffrey Osborne, Casey and JoJo, Gladys Knight have been my favorites.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's nice.
Yeah,
That's nice.
yeah.
Now, this may get you in trouble. What are any gigs that you had that was, I guess, not so alluring to you, or the worst gigs
Uh,
that you?
yeah, we won't go there.
Everybody has those nightmare gigs, man.
The industry is really small. Oh, I forgot. I'm gonna tell you, to add on to that other list
Yeah,
of favorites was Al McKay's All Stars.
yeah.
Yeah, Al McKay's Earth, Wind, and Fire All Stars. I played with them in 2019, and
Mhm.
that was one of my favorite gigs of all time.
And and I've seen the clip of that, and it looked like a really fun gig,
It
really fun.
was. It
You
was.
know, everybody, they just, the energy. They have
Yeah.
so much energy, and I can tell you very engaged into, locking in with everybody. The synchronicity of it all.
Yeah. And that gig was challenging because there was no rehearsal.
Oh,
So I had to learn everything at home.
uh-huh.
And by the time I got to Germany, then we had sound check, and they were like, "Well, what do you want to go over?" I said, "Okay, there was a couple of spots, and then we
Right,
hit the show, you know,
right,
and
right.
we hit the show, and so yeah, but
Um,
it was fun.
yeah, that's when you got to bring it, especially when you have to rehearse on your own, listen to all the tracks, get the hits, all that,
Mm-hmm.
and come out and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess after what? How many shows did you do with him when
Just
you did
one,
just one?
yeah, just one. Yeah. And I was supposed to play with him this past New Year's, but it got canceled because of a series of earthquakes in Jakarta, Indonesia. And
Right,
so I was in my practice regimen again,
right.
because for me, one of the things that I always appreciate is when I get a call back.
Hmm.
So it was like 1 year, I can't remember what year, it was probably early 2000s, because I was working with Jeffrey Osborne, and I got called to sub for Ricky Lawson on Gerald Albright's gig. And I got a call back, but and then Al McKay, I got a call back. Gladys Knight, I got a call back. Jeffrey Osborne, I got a call back. So those are the things that I love, because even if you can't do the gig, that shows that they appreciated your work.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's tight. That's real tight. And since you've brought up, of course, and you're currently now with one of my favorite artists, through time, because of me being old school like I am, Gladys Knight. Oh my goodness. To play with a legend and the Empress of Soul.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. How does that feel? Knowing that, first of all, that's the cream of the crop.
Yes, it is.
You play with all these other artists, which are great artists, fun to play with, great to meet, knowing that they are legends themselves too, because you got Jeffrey Osborne out there, he's been in two situations, his solo and of course with the first group that he's with.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and for you, let's start. How did you get the gig with Gladys Knight?
Well, there was a Gladys Knight Jeffrey Osborne tour. And we were opening up, or we would switch off opening up, and so Gladys's drummer at that time was Daniel Bejarano, who plays with Kenny G now.
Mm.
And so I think he was going to the Kenny G audition. And so he asked me to sub on Gladys's gig after the Gladys Jeffrey Osborne gig was over. So we played in Chicago. And so I went there and I played the gig, and came back home and was playing back with Jeffrey. And then he called me again because Gladys was doing a, what do you call it? She was doing a residency at the Flamingo.
Okay. Yeah.
And the prerequisite was for everybody to move there in the band, and people didn't want to move from Los Angeles to Vegas.
Okay.
And so at that point, I could take or leave Los Angeles at that point. And being that it was going to be a steady gig, I was like, let me go and work.
Yeah.
So I had to audition, and I got the audition. They had already heard me, but I did have to audition, and I got the audition, and that was January 2002. And that's how I got the Gladys Knight gig.
Nice. Nice. And it's still going. It is still going.
And it's still going 21 years later.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Well, it's like when you're in a hustle mode, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. And so.
Yeah. Well, I've known that situation too, being in a situation and all of a sudden, just for some reason, there's not this, I guess, comfortable attitude about moving on with the same person sometimes, and then they want to change up,
Yeah, and sometimes it's not discomfort. Sometimes it's just something fresh.
Yeah,
yeah. And I get it because, like, the younger drummers, they have a different vibe.
Yeah.
And I try to keep myself somewhere in the middle of authenticity of the artist that I'm playing with, but still try to implement some of the new stuff to make it, a little current. But I just come from an era where, those songs have stood the test of time for a reason.
Yeah.
And they're not broke. So,
right.
So why swing Midnight Train to Georgia?
Yeah.
Midnight Train to Georgia is Midnight Train to Georgia.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of swinging, do you play any gigs with anyone or have been with anyone that does a jazz set?
Yeah, back in the day, I was probably more fluent in my jazz stuff. And actually, I did a jazz set with Jennifer Holliday in Boston, which was cool, But other than that, not really,
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, a lot of artists implement a jazz song into their set. They want to show their versatility, or, I understand if you sang songs for 25 years, you just kind of want to do something different. So, I mean, Jeffrey Osborne did a jazz record, Gladys Knight did a jazz record, and so they implement those types of songs in their sets. But just for me to just play a straight jazz gig, that really hasn't been my forte. And so instead of me going, yeah, I play jazz and get on the gig and suck at jazz, I'll refer to one of my friends who really do that, and that keeps me cool, because I'm not getting fired off of a gig because I said I could do something that I really don't do. I'm really an R&B player.
Yeah.
That's an R&B pop. That's what I'll do. That's what I can do. So
yeah. And it's like you do what you do best, and have no qualms about it and everything. But if it needs to be tasty like that, you can pull it off, within its own area, That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Yeah. It's the same for me. I try to play everything, but I know the jazz spots are more of my action a little bit. But the thing is, once again, is constantly be playing for however much you can, whether it's with someone or not with someone.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, you don't get enough to where you want to play more, practice more, things like that. Things are different in conditions, and I guess space and time,
And age.
That's true too. Yeah, a lot of pains about this time in life. Yeah. So, also growing up, and I know you have two daughters, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes. So do you have does your daughters ever get to see you, come out to a gig sometimes and everything? Because I know they're probably all over the country, in different places in the country, I should say.
Yeah, well, I mean, my youngest daughter just saw me last year in Washington, D.C., and so she gets to come out, but, she's busy. And my oldest daughter lives in Cincinnati, I believe. And so she doesn't see me as much as she used to when she was younger, but, I give them all the opportunity to come see daddy play, with whoever artist that I'm playing with. Matter of fact, my youngest daughter came out to DC and we were doing a show with Patti LaBelle and Stephanie Mills and El DeBarge. And so she got to take pictures with El DeBarge and stuff, because that was my first road tour, was DeBarge in 1984. Wow. And so I was like, yeah, like 38 years later.
Wow.
And we're still out there, Yeah. And so, it was funny because I had some old pictures and I sent them to him of us on stage in Bermuda, doing it was the Love Me in a Special Way tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And same year Purple Rain came out because we all went to the theater on our day off to see Purple Rain. I remember that. And so I sent him pictures and stuff. It was really cool to see him again.
That's great. That's
Mhm.
great. Yeah, and he's still doing,
Yeah, he's still doing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it still sounds good.
still sounds good.
Yeah,
Man. That's to know that you're keeping yourself healthy, your chops up and things like that, and you know, you're relevant in the game still,
yeah, to some extent. You get around the younger kids and they want you to play more. And we were taught to keep it simple, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
they want you to chop it up. So, I'm somewhat relevant, but you know,
yeah.
I keep working because I play the music and I don't play drums, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, as one of our friends, Larry Thompson, that's what he had told me. He said, just play the music. I played with Dot Cero, and he said, you'll be fine. Just play the music.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it really helps too because me coming from a technical background, I started when I was 5, and my
Hmm.
mother put me in private lessons.
Hmm.
So she said, if you're going to learn, you're going to learn how to read.
Right.
So that's where I got my training. And that was a regiment for me too. And the practicing, like you said, I used to practice, 4 hours, 5 hours a day, during the summertime, during school's out,
Yeah.
dad at work. I hit the kit and I wasn't done until they came home. you know,
Those were the good old days.
it was the good old days.
Hmm.
Everybody want to go out and play. No, man, I got to practice.
I know those days. Yeah.
That's part of the grind for sure.
Yeah.
What what have you I guess this is the best way I can put it. What have you taken away from your career that's been, some nuggets, some special things that, really has gave you that knowledge and the wisdom to know that, you've grown into this industry, you've learned how to deal with it, and you've learned how to deal with people and all kind of personalities.
Well, I tell people who come up to me and go, I want to do what you do. And 90% of it is knowing how to live with people. You can be the best player in the world, any instrument, and you don't know how to live with people, you can get fired, get rid of the egos or whatever. I remember growing up, my brother telling me, it's like, yeah, you might be bad, but there's always somebody who can sit on your kit and is better than you.
Yeah.
And that playing the music, that's, play the music. Matter of fact, I usually tell people a quote from Jonathan Moffett, Michael Jackson's drummer.
Right.
Um, he said, play what's on the record is there for a reason. If they ask you for more, give them more. If they ask you for less, give them less. And that actually has kept me working all these years.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good nugget right there. You can't you can't take away just simplicity.
Mhm.
Playing it well and doing everything that they ask for you to do and instead of trying to be a showman.
Exactly. Because your name isn't on the billboard.
Exactly.
And sometimes they even say it's called accompaniment. You know, you're
Right.
accompanying the singer. It's not,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not your gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Once again, playing with Gladys Knight, what is the And you've been all over the world with her, you know,
Mm-hmm.
at least part of it, you know. What is I guess, the most memorable or exciting place that you've played with Gladys? You know, anywhere in the world.
As far as the venue or as far as the town or the city?
Well, the town, the place, you know.
Mm, well, there's a lot of those. Uh, the United States is United States, and mostly I think we mostly play on the East Coast, which those are always great audiences. Uh,
Mhm.
London, Royal Albert Hall is always great. Um, we play there. It seems like almost every other year we go over there and play
Yeah.
the whole England Europe circuit. But
Uh,
and I just from experience, I believe that the European people appreciate our music better than we do, especially the older music.
right.
Um, but I mean, every city has its own jewels.
Yeah.
It- one year I fell in love with Copenhagen. It's
Yeah.
just there's just a vibe there that I loved. One year I fell in love with Salt Lake City. 'Cause it's just a vibe there that I love. And and all those things and that you love about cities, not only the city itself, it's who you're there with, who you're hanging out with, the whole thing. You can
Yeah.
make the most out of any city. Like, yeah, even Stockholm, Sweden was a cool place for me. You
Right.
know, um, Japan, you
Yeah.
know, but Japan wasn't with Gladys. Japan was with other people, Johnny Gill and Casey and JoJo, and so, just going to Akihabara, Electric City in Japan, you get those experiences, the food experiences,
Yeah.
the um different way people live. And
Right.
I
The
forgot to
cultures.
tell you, the different cultures. Uh, One of my other favorite people that I played with was Billy Preston. And I probably,
Yes. Remember that. Yeah.
yeah, I think I did.
Hawaii, right?
Yeah, I did about 9 years with him, and
Mhm.
I saw a lot of the world with him. You know, and he was loved all over the world. I mean, one year we followed the World Cup in Italy, and
Wow.
I just, I saw everything. That was a year I went to the Vatican, and
Yeah.
places like that. And you're driving up into Rome, and you go, wow, this is real.
Yeah.
These buildings are real. You see them on television, but
Yeah.
then when you see them with your own eyes, you go, ooh, it
Yeah.
just has a whole nother take on it because,
Mhm.
you watch the movies Ben-Hur and
Right.
you know,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. You go, oh, that looks like Ben-Hur's thing over here, So,
Yeah.
so seeing all the artwork and the
I
statue,
know. Just
it's
yeah.
great.
Just yeah. The architecture of all the
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah. That would be very exciting to see.
Yeah.
That's nice. You ever
And
been to Cairo? Did you
no,
do anything in Cairo? Nothing in Cairo.
no.
Okay.
I think my brother's been there. Egypt, is that
Yeah.
Cairo, Egypt? Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been there and saw
Mhm.
the pyramids and stuff like that. That would
Right.
be a cool thing to do,
Yeah.
to go over that. I think right now, I think probably what I'd love to see is Jerusalem. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
I'd love to go to that land and just see that spot. But I have things on my bucket list, even in the United States. I need to see the Grand Canyon with my eyes. So I've always seen it flying over.
Yeah. Exactly.
And the crazy thing is, I lived in Las Vegas for 11 years and never went.
Every day go.
Uh, and that's just kind of like LA. You're there for a while and you don't go to the beach unless people come, and they
Yeah.
want to go to the beach. So,
Yeah. Exactly. The
mhm.
time I visited you.
Right, right. Yeah.
Well, and I guess that gets you away too, from knowing that you have this space of not being busy and working, and then you have some time to do something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's always cool. Um, what would you like at this point in your life to accomplish going forward in your career? Is there something else you want to accomplish?
Well, I'm working on a project, and I'd like to accomplish that. I just feel like the world is inundated with music. And so, what does that really mean for me? It's
Mhm.
like I put together and so what does that mean as far as presenting it to the world? Because um, every social media outlet is basically your own record company,
Mhm.
or your own television station.
Right.
And, so, you know, I'm going to continue to work on that. But other than that, I've pretty much done it all. You
Yeah.
know, I've pretty much seen the world and got paid for it,
Mhm.
which is a great thing. And I've played with legends and artists that
Yeah.
I was a fan first,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm actually playing with this guy. I mean, I actually got to play with Mary Wilson from the Supremes, and I was like, oh wow, I used to have a crush on her, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so there's a long list of people. I mean, we've just skimmed the surface of people who I've played with, you know,
Right.
but I've actually enjoyed 99% of them.
That's good.
But that's a small percentage of people that I probably didn't enjoy working.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
remember I came out one year and you were playing with Mickey Howard.
Mm-hmm.
That was real. It looked like a fun gig for you, you
Yeah, it
know.
was.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was playing with her, that was about what was that before? No, that was after the barge. So that was like probably 85, 86. We went out on a Cameo Word Up tour, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and it was fun. It was fun.
That's nice. We
Mhm.
were at you were playing on the location was Marina Del Rey.
Oh yeah, I remember that because Andrew was playing too, right? Was Andrew?
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
first time I met your brother.
yeah.
You know?
Andrew was playing that gig. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Mhm.
had the crop top thing
Mhm.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was so cool. And um, definitely all blessings to you because man, your brother was awesome. He was an awesome dude on that horn.
Yes, he was.
Yes. I know you miss him because he's family, he's a brother, but I miss him and knowing that I was just been able to be acquainted with him and, had a couple of conversations, throughout time and
Mhm.
everything. And man, that's just, you know, they I don't know if you saw the Grammys, they did, present him, on there on the screen for, you know,
Yeah, I didn't see the Grammys till after that because people started telling me that, and they
Mhm.
also showed him on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Also, you know,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Both of those, I don't know what you call them, but they
yeah.
definitely uh,
The
gave him respect.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, very appreciative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with all that being in that category of celebrityism, do you get a lot of people that kind of what we say stargazed at you in some ways, when you meet people?
Uh, it's probably just small. It's not like meeting the artist. Because
Uh-huh.
even nowadays, I'm still introduced as Andrew's brother. Yeah, which is funny. And all the artists I play with, which, you know, it's a blessing. You know,
Yeah,
I'm proud of my brother. I'm proud of my family. And so,
right.
you know, I get introduced as Andrew's brother, or I get introduced as Darryl Woolfolk, who plays with such and such. And
Yeah,
did you know his brother played with Earth, Wind and Fire? You know, and you know, it's, you know, that's what they accomplished was great,
yeah,
you know, undeniably great.
yeah,
And so, you know, they changed a lot in the music world, you know, and they were fired. So, you know,
yeah,
I have to embrace that, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a part of him, and it makes you a part of that too, you know, because you're connected, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
connected.
Definitely. Definitely.
It's so tight. It's nice. I'm glad to be associated with somebody that is in that upper echelon of musicianship, you know, because there I get the 411, and also I appreciate everything that you've given me on tips and things to do. You know, I cherish that a lot because I try to stay very connected to my musician friends that, of course, that are doing something. And I've always been with even the local groups and stuff. I try to get them to step up their game too, because, you know, I want to play with good people. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
want to play with good people. And you've been a musical director as well too. You was doing that on the Casey and JoJo tour, right?
Right.
If not others.
Musically directed Casey and JoJo and Sherelle. I
Mm,
did a promotional tour with Jesse Powell and Shantae Moore, musical directed, and actually musical directed for Billy Preston at one point. So yeah.
wow.
Mhm.
When did you get to, I guess, that point to where you can be the director?
You know, it's so funny. It's like they kind of fall in my hands.
Yeah.
uh, and so, you know, when I first got to LA, you know, I kept my mouth shut and my eyes and ears open.
Mhm.
And I'm going to tell you, my Johnny Gill experience also was a great education for musical directing. You
Mhm.
know, Ralph Hawkins was the musical director there, and just watching him um, musical direct that whole situation gave me the knowledge of doing other situations. You know, and I think sometimes uh, from that school, I
Mhm.
probably could have been too hard on people, but they were hard on me,
Right.
you know. And so uh, uh, when you start talking, rehearsing 12 hours a day, you know,
What?
right, it separates the men from the boys, you
Yeah.
know. But here's the other thing, like Earth, Wind, and Fire would practice for 2 months. And the first month was more practicing, and the second month was more production practicing.
Mhm.
You know, but the thing about practicing like that is when you hit the stage,
Yeah.
it's second nature. You
Yeah.
know, you're not thinking about anything. A matter of fact, you've got the music so ingrained in you, you're hearing it in your sleep and the whole thing. And so when you hit the stage and other little things happen, other little nuances happen, you're making music within the structure that you've practiced,
Right. Right.
which which makes the shows great because if you remember back in the day, if you saw Earth, Wind, and Fire 2 times, there was something different about a show,
Yeah.
you know. And I remember Andrew telling me that, you know, sometimes they would get together and listen to other music,
Mhm.
and that would influence how that show would go that night.
Yeah.
You know, and but they were so well rehearsed, you know, just something different would happen, and so that doesn't make it boring because the
Right.
bottom line is that you can play the same show verbatim every night
Yeah.
and you're traveling around the world and you still within a year haven't covered all the people that would,
Yeah.
come and see you.
Exactly.
That's just even like Gladys, she will change up her show almost every night. If it's a song or the audience difference, or whatever. But even when we were at the Flamingo, we could have stayed there forever. And the world would have came to us,
Right.
opposed to us going out to the world.
Exactly.
And you could be there for 20 years and still not cover all the people. There's still people who have never seen Gladys Knight, Earth, Wind, and Fire, or somebody live.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
And so, that's what makes work beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what makes work not boring. And then once you start getting that energy back from the audience and stuff, that makes you play better and it makes it not boring.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, because they want to hear those songs.
They do. And you never get tired of the songs,
Yeah. Oh.
It's a mainstay in your life. Something happened, as they say, there's a song that everybody remembers what they were doing at a certain point in time in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is being played, especially a favorite,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially a favorite.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Uh, is there something that you like to share that folks don't know about you?
I don't know. Most people know, that I try to uphold myself as a Christian man, and live life correct. I've tried to go through this life without causing anybody harm, and try not to be the doggy dog in this business. So, try to do things fairly. So, and I think most people know that. So, that's, I don't know.
Well, I like to say that knowing that you're that way anyway, I've known you before where you are now, and you were always a kind person. You're always jovial. You have a great sense of humor. You love life and you love people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest thing, when you just love people in general, you don't set out to, be negative on anybody's, you know, I guess presence, whatever may happen and everything. You still find a way to, bring some humor into life. You're kind, you're respectful, you know, and knowing I knew your parents too. I mean, we were both brought up under great parents,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
and that's where it comes from. You got to have that home training, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But you're a genuine dude, man. You're the brother that everybody would love to hang out with.
That's funny. Yeah. I would like to say, it was in my head. Oh, being a musician, trying to be an upcoming musician, trying to get there out in the world.
Mhm.
Just remember that you can only be the best at being you, and there's a place for everybody.
Yeah.
And it may not be on a big stage. It might be on a small stage, or it might be on a medium stage. You might play with a corporate band doing weddings and whatever.
Right.
But there's always a place. And if that's what you want to do to make money and to become a career musician, there's always a place.
Yeah.
Just find your place.
Exactly. And it usually comes and finds you when you're out there doing all this.
Mm.
It just happens, and you never know. I have to tell you, the one thing my mom gave me when I started playing, she says, as you learn how to play and you play, never give it up because you never know where it will take you.
Mm-hmm.
You never
Exactly.
know where it will take you. Yeah,
You never know.
you never know.
I have been from the Chitlin circuit to stages where there's people as far back as I can see.
Yeah,
You know,
they were just dots.
yeah, it's never know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
How is that feeling for you? You know, I hear, of course, a lot of people explain that and express it, but how is that for you?
What, seeing people or
Feeling, with that kind of crowd, the hundreds of thousands to thousands and tens of thousands of people.
um what's so funny? And I asked my brother that,
Yeah.
you can only see back so far back. Yeah, especially like in arenas and stuff like that. You can really only see so far back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's more of a feeling, you
Yeah.
know, because that energy is coming up towards you, you know what I'm saying? So it's not really scary,
Yeah.
it's just
It's more
it's
inviting, right?
yeah, it's more inviting. Yeah, it's more inviting. It's like you come out on stage. I remember, and I tell this story sometimes. I remember my first gig with DeBarge, and we were playing a amusement park. Might have been in Kansas somewhere, World of Fun or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And so this is my first gig, I'm coming out,
Yeah.
driving up, and the guys are talking to me. They said, watch. They said, when you go out there, the girls are going to be screaming so loud that you won't be able to hear your instrument. Okay, all right. So I get out there and I hit my bass drum and it goes. Because what was coming at me was just crazy. And we were just the band,
Yeah.
And, and so, that energy is crazy, and,
No.
for some people, it's like a drug,
Yeah.
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 So
Wow.
that's why, like, athletes and stuff, when their home crowd is cheering them on and that
Yeah.
whole thing, it's like, okay, we gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some exciting stuff. Those are good experiences, having the crowd like that and
Yeah.
getting
Very exciting.
into, yeah, it's different. And to deal with that, knowing you can't hear yourself or hear your instrument, that's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely dependent on monitors, which is great. Yeah, and they settle down after a while, and it
Yeah,
becomes normal. But
yeah. Do you wear the ear monitors, the buds?
yeah,
Mm,
yeah, I do now,
okay,
which is great.
that's good. And I haven't had any of those as of yet, but I guess brand wise, what would be the best brand?
Well, I
What's that?
actually use Ultimate Ears,
Mm,
um, but there's several brands out there. I'm not sure Ultimate Ears has been out there the longest. They have a different technology um, than most ear companies, and
mhm.
I know they're pretty prominent in the industry. So
Right, right.
yeah. I've
So
had some I've had some other ones that just fell apart on me. So
yeah,
yeah,
you find out what works and don't work.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So equipment wise, and tell everybody what drum kit you play on, the brand of drum kit and everything that you use on your set.
Oh, Mattel, no.
uh,
You can edit that
they've been around
out.
a long time.
Been around a long time. As a matter of fact, I still have my Sears drum set from the Sears magazine. No, anyway, no, to be serious, um, I play DW drums, Drum Workshop drums. I've been endorsed with them for a couple of years. Zildjian cymbals, Zildjian sticks, Porter and Davis drum stool, and I think that's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about the pads? You use electric pads and things too.
Yeah, I use Roland. Okay, let me.
Caught you off guard.
Yeah, it is right. There's one right over there. I can't think of the name of it. Oh my God, I'm getting old. Um, what is the rolling pad called? Oh, SPDSX Pro. Yeah, that's what it is. Right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this again. I use the Roland SPDSX Pro. Not endorsed by Roland, but Roland did just acquire Drum Workshop drums. So
wow.
yeah, I don't know what that means for me, but you know,
Right.
I do like the Roland products. But my first electronic drum experience, hybrid drum experience, was with Drumcat.
Oh, okay.
That was in the 90s.
Right. I
And
remember
they
that name.
yeah, and they had even though the Roland Octopad was out,
Mhm.
the Drumcat was more sophisticated. And so I went with that. But now the Roland SPDSX pad is definitely sophisticated, has
Right.
internal sounds, and you can put your own samples and stuff in there. So, you know, it just makes it very convenient to be a hybrid drummer.
Right.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's great. That's great. So, in playing and performing and everything, with everything that you have to dial in, is there, I guess, during your rehearsals, do you find a place to do something that special with, dialing in a drum pad, the information, or is it something that the director, musical director on that show wants you to put in? Or do you do it, basically yourself? Oh, I like to have this right here.
Um, it just depends on the gig, really.
Yeah.
I think I did the most hybrid drumming with Casey and JoJo.
Mhm.
Uh, I had it all over my kit. I had DAWs pads over my kit. I was playing um, record samples and guitar samples as I was playing the beats. You
Right.
know, it was just that was the most hybrid drumming I did. Now it's about playing the sounds that are on the record. So, you know, I have triggers on my kick drum and my snare drum, and everything else is acoustic.
Mhm.
Uh, and playing some samples, playing some samples, or depending on the gig, percussion samples,
Mhm.
hand claps, finger snaps, bell trees, stuff like that.
Right.
Just having good relevant sounds that
Right.
fit the songs,
Mhm.
you know.
And that eliminates a lot of stuff in your entourage of gear.
Oh
You
yeah, you don't
have
have
to
to carry
clutter up the
those things
stage.
around.
So,
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It makes it a lot convenient to have it there in the box opposed to have it playing it live,
yeah, yeah,
playing the physical instrument. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So one last question, and this has been great. I mean, thank you again for joining me and wanting to do this. And you know, we've got to this point, and it's an awesome time to speaking and understanding. What your life is all about going through, and it's a
And
good
thank you for
life.
having me. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
thank you for
welcome.
having me. Mhm.
We'll have to get some of your associates and other folks so I can get on here and just fill it up with good interviews.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But getting to gigs, especially all over the country and the world, what is I guess, the the practice, I should say, of having your gear there and everything, who does that for you, because these days you can't travel with a lot of instruments, especially drums.
Yeah, there are backline companies all over the world. And so I have what is called a rider, and it has everything that I use from sticks to drum heads to cymbal types and sounds to, drum sizes, and my electronic stuff and the seat that I use.
Right.
And so, and most of the time they come real close. And that's one thing good about being endorsed, because when I go overseas, I can call Drum Workshop and tell them I'm getting ready to go over here. They can talk to the backline company and make sure that I have what I need when I get over there.
Right.
We have a backline company here in the United States that has an A and a B rig. So I have two Drum Workshop kits exactly the same, and
Yeah.
so if like we're getting ready to go to South Carolina and then to Nashville. So the A rig might be in South Carolina and then the B rig will be in Nashville. And then they'll switch up according to distance.
Right.
But I'm always getting the same thing on every gig. So even when we go out of the United States market, then I'll talk to somebody, a production manager or whatever, and they'll talk to the people to make sure that they have everything that I need on my rider. And if they don't, then I'll tell them what I'll accept or what I don't accept. Because I usually play a 6-7 piece kit.
Yeah.
With a bunch of cymbals, but I don't have to, And
Yeah.
so at this age, it's like, okay, it's only going to be for one night. I have my regular stuff, and this is only going to happen this one time. So, I'm pretty patient with those kind of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And that's for the folks who watch this, because I know young people that are getting to these points of their career to where they're starting to elevate and have, these kind of great shows that they may do. And even on the smaller scale, what have you, things like that, they would want to know, how do we navigate all this stuff, and get things going.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the level that you're on. If you're doing a band tour, then you're bringing your own kit. If you're doing a big stage tour, then make sure that they're providing the things that you need.
Right, right.
Do the job.
Especially big name acts, big name acts,
Yeah.
Is there anybody that you haven't played with that you want to play with?
Yeah. Yeah. One group. Guess.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
There you go. There you go. That would be probably the ultimate, at least once.
Yeah.
But I mean, playing with Al McKay, that's great too. I mean, that's like they're hand in hand, really.
Exactly. He's an original.
Yeah. So but just to play with the group, I have several friends on that group, and it just be great to just vibe with them, to actually play with Verdine,
Yeah. Oh,
that would just be crazy, to play with Verdine,
Yeah. Boy, Energizer Bunny ain't got nothing on him.
Yeah.
That guy has I don't know what he does. He must be a vegan, because I tell you, he ain't got nothing holding him down. He's flying all over the place, and it seems like he just, he probably settles down when everything is over. But as soon as he's on that stage, he's like, boom,
Yeah. That would be cool. That would be cool.
A fun person to watch too, boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, that band has so many highlights in the group, so many of the elements that make that group what it is. you know, and there'll never, as far as I'm concerned, there'll never be another group like that at all.
Yeah, yeah, that was a special group. Yeah,
Very.
to actually play with Philip singing, you know what I'm saying? That would be great. That would be
Oh
great.
yeah, yeah. Do you ever get a chance to speak to him sometime, or?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Him and Berdine and you
Yeah,
know, and Al, you know, they're like my big brothers and
yeah,
Larry Dunn, you know.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Great, great. Well, I see Larry a lot of times at the NAM show. You know,
Hmm.
yeah. And for folks out there that don't know, the NAM is National Artists, Merchants of Musicians. Big, what we call the big playground.
Would you like for me to correct you on that one?
Yeah, go ahead and correct me if I got
It
it wrong.
is the National
Oh,
Association of Music
music
Merchants.
merchants. Yes,
Yeah.
I was trying to spit it out so fast. You know,
Right.
I was
Yeah.
close. I was
Yeah.
close.
So
Yeah,
so I just, you know, since we're doing this interview, I am tossing around in my head, and you asked me this earlier, to do a tribute, benefit tribute to my brother every year. And
nice.
and I would like to do it in Denver and bring in some of the people like Al McKay or Larry Dunn and
Yeah,
you know, just do Earth, Wind and Fire music, do stuff that my brother would do, you know,
right.
and just have an event, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome. That would be so nice.
yeah,
Yeah, everybody would go to that, no
yeah,
doubt. I think
yeah,
you got something there. That would be special,
yeah. So,
very
you know,
special.
listen out for that. You
All
know,
right,
I'll try to work with some people and get some sponsors and stuff, and
right,
you know, try to make that happen. You know, bring some of the older Earth, Wind and Fire. You know, even some of the guys who are playing with Earth, Wind and Fire now.
right.
You know, just come in and celebrate my brother's life, and you know, give some of the proceeds to a charity. You know,
Yes,
and just have a good time on stage and celebrate that whole Denver Earth, Wind, and Fire connection.
right.
Mhm.
Well, I definitely wish you well on that, and I hope that comes to fruition because that is something that's necessary. You
Mhm.
know, it's definitely necessary because we have a lot of rich history here with a lot of artists, and it just popped into my head. Have you ever played with Diane Reeves?
Yeah, in high school.
Yeah,
In high school, you know, I played
yeah,
with her in high school. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We go back. A matter of fact, I just texted her and told her that Gladys will be in Denver on April 7th, and,
Uh-huh.
and Gladys will be in Colorado Springs on April 6th. So,
Ah,
so
yeah.
if you want to come see me play Denver, you know, or wherever you are in the world, you know, come see me play with Gladys. She is
Yeah,
she is still phenomenal at 78. She'll be 79 this year. And come see her before it's too late, you know.
yeah. She's
I wish I seen her, you know. Don't do it because she's still killing. Her voice is great.
that's
And
great.
just she's that Empress of Soul. That's what
Yeah,
she is. Yeah.
yeah. And that tells you those people that are has that longevity and is with it still with their voice, their everything, the talent that they grew up with and that been going on. They take care of themselves. They've been taking care of themselves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that vocal cord, that voice box is so special to know that you have to take care of that big time. I've been, I guess, more engaged too because you know our friend Odell that sings, he tells me all about the conditioning of keeping his voice together, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's a whole nother animal to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That instrument, that voice instrument. And it's like any other instrument. You
yeah,
know, not only you have to take care of your hands or your feet or whatever, but you have to take care of the physical instrument itself. to
Yeah,
make it sound good, to keep it sounding good, you know. So,
exactly.
mhm,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, Darryl, it is, once again, my pleasure to know that you've come on my show to get this.
Anytime,
Yeah,
anytime.
this interview has been awesome. I've found out some things I didn't know, and that's always a good thing because now I'm sitting here, understanding different nuances about your path and the journey that you've taken in this life of drumming and meeting all of the top-notch people in the industry and playing with them. It has been great. The flavor of jazz cuisine just gets better and better because people like you make it great for sitting here and having a moment and taking out some time in your life to say, hey, let me check this out. And I know there's going to be a lot of people checking this out.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to end it with the flavor of jazz cuisine, all for your mental appetite.